Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. Inside this black box is an open frame small form factor PC case, and it's called the XWORKS 70 xFrame. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna put this together and do a little build because not is all as it seems. The reason I'm saying that is to build this case, you have to build the PC around it. So let's get around it and build a PC. And then I'm gonna let you guys know if this is worth your hard-earned money. But before that, here's a word from today's video sponsor. Take it away, Claire.
This video is brought to you by VOPSCDkey.com. Have you ever installed Windows only to see that watermark of death? You don't need to fork out a couple of $100s for a key. You can grab one from today's video sponsor, from VOPSCDkey.com for a tenth of the price. You can use our code GEAR to get 25% off. How good is that? That takes that already cheap Windows key and makes it even cheaper. You can grab yourself a copy of Office Pro 2019 with code GEAR and save yourself a whole stack of money as well. It's as easy as placing your order. Bingo bango! You've got your new key on your orders page. You chuck that key into the activation screen and you're good to go. No more watermark of death. You can even use your cheap Windows 10 Pro key to upgrade to Windows 11 Pro. Use code GEAR for 25% off. Link in the description. On with the video.
Oh, there's nothing in it. How lame. If you want to know how to build it, see this little QR code, that's going to show you, but we're going to do it together. All right, let's take a look. What do we got? We've got parts. The interesting thing about this case is you can build it in a few different offsets to support different height air coolers, but the truth is, this is an open frame case. It doesn't really matter how tall your air cooler is. You can put any cooler you want on it realistically, but if you want it to be inside the bounds of the case, that's where things get a little bit interesting. What I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna care about the maximum cooler height in this. I'm gonna use a cooler that I think would work well, regardless of how high it should or shouldn't be. And maybe this is something you'd be interested in too, but yeah, we'll figure it out, we'll work it out together. Wow, this is really, really nice. Wonder who made this.
I did.
It wasn't June case, because that never happened.
Wow.
Hey, I'll never, June case.
Shots fired.
Never forget. We've got a box with all of the screws and doodads you're gonna need. It includes some tools, but they're not the biggest or easiest tools. Just use your own. Wow, that's cool. Whoa, that looks properly cool. This thing is presented really, really well. We'll get to the pricing and everything later, but this looks very cool. Let's build. Frame goes last. First of all, we start off with doing the motherboard standoffs. We'll need 4 of these round standoffs and 4 screws, and we'll just do it up. Next up, we're gonna have to install some of the standoffs for the support system. Next up is some pre-flight stuff for the GPU support. So we'll put some screws through here. All right, we get the power button fed through into the power button panel. And we'll just feed all the cables through. Then we'll put the included rubber washer behind the power button. And then we'll use the included nut to then fasten that together. And now our power button panel is ready to go. Well, almost ready to go. And then we'll put the 4 screws into the power button box to hold everything together. And that's the power button box. The power supply bracket installation is very clever. The way this works is you feed this panel in through these 2 cutout holes, and then use 2 screws to fasten that power supply bracket to the frame. And everything's countersunk, so everything sits flush. Now's the time we're going to install the power supply. Very easy installation. Just line it up with that bracket and use 4 of the included screws to then fasten the power supply to the bracket. And as mentioned before, everything's countersunk, so everything sits nice and flush. Now we'll get the extension cord for the power supply installed. It installs into this little cutout here. And I think the easiest way is just gonna be lifting this up and pushing that down. The extension itself has more countersunk holes, so everything will sit nice and flush once again. I think there's been a lot of thought put into this case with it being easy to build and everything looking really nice and it being functional at the same time. I mean, that's what I'm getting from building this thing, that is. It's got other awesome little bits of attention to detail with things like cable tie downs. See these little T bits cut out in the frame here? Basically what you can do is put a cable tie on your cable, push it down, and now your cable tie is in place and you can just fasten it down. How good's that? It just holds it in place. I've just realized that the power supply that I installed is too big for this. So SFX L is a no-go. It has to be straight up SFX. So we'll need to swap over that power supply really quickly so we can get on with building. Not all SFX power supplies are created equally. As you can see here with this Cooler Master power supply, the 12-volt high power connector sits right on the edge here. And what that means is if you put the button box on here, basically this is designed to cover all the cables up. It doesn't go on because these sections here kind of interfere with the power supply and you can't fasten this box to the frame when you're using this power supply with the 12-volt high power connector. Now, if I was to not use that and use a different GPU than the one that I planned, then not a problem because you can just use the regular PCIe power and you should be able to get away with clearances, but I don't know if there's a way around it other than if I get the Dremel out and cut out a section of this, which I don't really want to do because this is such a well-built case. I came up with a little bit of a workaround. I used some washers and the included screws just to kind of fasten it to the edge of the case. I'm not sure if this is going to be an issue later with the frame, but I don't think so. Now comes the fun part. We're going to install the included PCIe 4.0 riser cable. Basically what you're going to do is you want to slot it through this hole here, and then we're going to flip it over and install the motherboard. Now we can assemble the center frame. The way you want to do this is pass your power cable through for your GPU through the cutout on the top side of the frame. Then you want to pass your riser cable through and then kind of just sit it there. And then we're going to fasten the riser cable to the case first. This just makes it easier later. And then the standoffs that we installed towards the start of the video, we'll want to line those up. The little mod I did before with the screws and the washers to hold in the power box didn't work. Double-sided tape fixed it though. Realistically, I want to install this 4090 Founders in here, but whether or not it's going to work, we'll have to find out. So let's just see what happens. Even though this is a terrible GPU to use, come to think of it. Make sure the PCIe slot lock is open, and we're just going to use this 4070 Ti Super, lock it into place, drop it in the slot, drop it in the slot, lock it in the slot, lock it in the slot. And now we'll attach the bracket that holds all of this into place. 2 thumb screws that hold this piece in place here. We'll want to get these nuts.
Got it!
All right, time to assemble the frame. It assembles in a couple sections. I'll show you how the first section comes together because 2 of these steps are exactly the same. Okay, that's one section of the frame done. Time to attach the frame to the case, well, to the center of it anyway. And this can be somewhat tricky, but you know, it is what it is. Now, depending on your GPU length and your offsets and everything, if you don't want your GPU to protrude over one side or you don't want your cooler to protrude over the other side, then this will probably matter to you. But I think because this is an open air case, I don't think any of that matters, to be fair, because my cooler is definitely going to protrude out the side of this, but not by a lot. So I don't think it really matters at all. And lastly, the rest of the frame. Final touch is putting on the little rubber feet on the bottom of the case. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing the XWORKS 70 xFrame come together. There is a lot to unpack with building in this case, and it's stuff that you might overlook, and it's things that I did on purpose so you guys know what not to do. Some of it was accidentally on purpose and some of it was on purpose. But let's start off with cooler height. Now, for me, I don't care if it's taller than whatever the specification is on an open frame case. As you can see here, guys, it well exceeds the limit of this case, but I don't think this is a big problem for something like this because you're not really gonna look at it that way. And realistically, you could have it on your desk on one side where you're looking at your GPU and you're never gonna be looking at your CPU cooler anyway. So that for me, I don't think that's a big problem whatsoever. Also, another thing to note is it does have an adjustable spine. So the whole center of the case can be adjusted with the screws here, so you can change the offset, and you kind of need to balance it between the maximum cooler height and your maximum GPU length and clearance. But as I said at the start of the video, I'm just gonna do whatever I want with the parts that I want to make it look fairly good. Now, one thing I wanted to mention was if you're thinking of using a Founders NVIDIA card, no dice with this case. It's just not gonna work because the exhaust for those cards is right up against the center spine of the case. You could do it if you really hated your GPU, and there's probably gonna be people in the comments saying, oh, it's fine, but I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't, right? I built thousands of computers and yeah, I just wouldn't do it. The other thing I wanted to mention was that power supply compatibility with that little power box slash cable management hiding box. As you can see here, I double-sided taped this on because this power supply, even though it technically does fit, if you use the 12-volt high power cable, it's no dice. It's just not going to line up with the holes and whatnot. Not only that, I'm not sure why they couldn't have just put a straight edge onto the edge of that box to allow cables to just flow straight in. I know they want to make it look pretty and have the shape all nice and whatnot, but they could have made the post half the height. I hope that makes sense. So then you can fit this on with this power supply. It's a little bit disappointing when we're kind of limited for power supplies that support 12-volt high power connectors. Say for instance, the Corsair power supply that I accidentally on purpose tried to install towards the start of the video, that didn't fit because it was too long. So there are a lot of things that they can improve with this case, but if I'm being honest about the xFrame, I kind of like it in the sense that it's one of those open frame cases that can hide all of the cables. Look how clean this is. This is an open frame case. You can't really see anything on it, right? You see the power cable for the GPU. Everything is hidden inside of the spine of the case. That is absolutely bloody brilliant. I think it's been designed very, very well, apart from the obvious, all those things that I mentioned. Yeah, for small form factor enthusiasts who want something a little bit open and don't care about their CPU cooler heights, I gotta say, this is a very nice case. Obviously with cases like this, you're making compromises at every step of the way, but the best way to combat all of that is to research the case and the hardware that you want to use before you build any PCs. And that is especially the case with small form factor. Now, What's the price, Claire? Is it 200 and something US dollars? If you're interested in the XWORKS 70 xFrame, they're starting at 219 US dollars. Now, it sounds like it's on the steep end, but this is a very bespoke, handcrafted case for small form factor. And you know, the smaller you go, the more you pay. But I don't think that that is outrageous for a case like this because the quality is excellent. The ease of building it, especially for a flat pack case, this is the easiest flat pack small form factor case that I've built. And we've built quite a few here on the channel. I'll put a playlist for all that stuff. But yeah, this is the easiest one I've encountered ever. So good work, XWORKS. You make X work.
X gon' give it to you.
PC part picker list down below if you're interested in any of the hardware. It's a pretty powerful gaming PC if it's something you wanted to do. Anyways, I'm out of here. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peak, we seek, all that other rubbish and jazz. I make the music. Click the join button, get early access on Floatplane, all that stuff, but also watch your video over here if it's something you want to do or not. Just click off the video now. You've probably already clicked off, let's be honest. Comment if you're watching at this part of the video, which you're definitely not. There's not going to be a single comment for people watching at this part of the video. I dare you to comment that you watch this part. I dare you. You won't. You're scared. Thanks for watching.